Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining me here today. If you found yourself here, there may be a message for your healing journey, soul's evolution, transformation, or simply information. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about planning, life's planning, legacy, estates, wills, and everything in between. Things that we don't really talk about a whole lot because people get uncomfortable. And why am I talking about this? Well, for many reasons. Many reasons, timelining back, I can say I've lost a lot of people. And some people didn't plan their end because it was short. Maybe I have friends die, of course, in high school, college, in life, after they were married, served time in the service, and then lost their wife too. So their children were left to help plan or their family. And even though there was a partial will with that, it wasn't really complete. And maybe a classmate of mine had started one, but if it's not complete, it can't really be executed, right? But their word meant something to me when they talked about it. Maybe they knew something. But for my brother, he died at 19. There wasn't a will, but my parents had life insurance on his children, probably based to their work. So at the end of life, they have some sort of plan, and it's up to them to decide what they're going to do with some of the funds. When my brother died, of course, the three of us that were, my mom, with my mom, we received some money and we were able to do things with it. I bought beautiful prints at an art gallery and something significant I wanted in my home with my ex-husband. And sometimes people pass away, like my dad. He had a simple will, very simple man. And when he passed away, it's been over 3 years now. Here we are sitting in probate, an awful place to be. It should never have gone this way. And why I'm talking about this today is because things get crazy, right? So my stepmother, his wife, who I adored, and I was full of grief when he passed away because he found love in her and she loved him. And when she was sick, I cared for her for 6 months until she passed. She was in the hospital and died there. Unfortunate. Just ripped my heart out. The things we talked about while she was in the hospital and had many laughs and talked about his will and what his wishes were for his own children. And of course, he loved hers too. They were both married before a couple times. And my stepmother had lost or divorced her first with her children, then her second passed away of cancer, who she cared for. So her daughter was well versed in how to operate and navigate these systems when people pass away. So when she was ill, she revised the power of attorney she had while her mom was in the hospital. Maybe she was under duress. I don't think she actually signed it. Why do I know that? Because it's got messy. I hired a handwriting analysis to prove my point, which I already knew intuitively, but that doesn't work in court, right? Or does it? Well, you'd be surprised what people can buy and persuade the court systems to do whatever they feel they want because of their greed, right? Well, behind the scenes, while I was caring for my stepmother, who I teared up because she loved that guy, my dad. He was sort of like a broken horse, right? Broken. And she tamed him. Of course, he was always a stallion. And at the end of his life, we celebrated as he rode off into the sunset on his favorite horse at the age he won. Pain, right? So that was a beautiful thing. But now this is for education purposes. When you're married to somebody and you die, everything is sort of left to the wife, right? So why then would you need to transfer titles to collector cars to the wife, which she would be left with it anyway, no matter what the will says? And this is education because I've learned a lot of things through probate, unfortunately, or fortunately. So why would one need to do that? Well, you really don't. but she transferred titles to the mother, power of attorney. And how did she change that? Because she's a court clerk, knowing somebody that can notarize it and send it to her favorite judge, right? In a small town, thinking things are legit. Well, when you have blended families, there's a lot of shit show that happens. Nobody really cares about taking whatever they have. Not my people, not my family, and not me, because I had to be appointed personal representative, or I opted to fight for what's right, per my dad's will. So we did this process, and now it's, in the court systems. And those people that don't want me to speak on this are cutting this. I can hear it. I'm going to put it out there anyway because it's in ethers for education. So through pain, trauma, sorrow, grief, and shame, here we are over 3 years later. Most of his cars were then transferred into the daughter, who her and her husband decided to sell things for cash, and a lot of other things that my dad owned that were special and sacred to me. And of course, my grandpa's jewelry and different things, Wurlitzers, and just things you don't have around nowadays. They're collector, they're antiques, but I would really like to have those, but they're gone. So the 6 months I was in the hospital giving feedback to my supposed sister, because it's a blended family, she was behind the scenes clearing things out. Didn't know. I didn't know. And then, of course, my other half sister died, or stepsister, I guess. She's not a half sister, they're not blood. So behind the scenes, they cleaned house. 3 people died within a year. A little strange, right? And then you think about your estranged past person and how people get taken out for money, or maybe your own life. So why do I say this? Probate is never the way to go. Get your affairs in order. Then recently I talked to my kids and I got nervous because I've been the only parent really. And my oldest, my ex-husband, is fighting for his life on dialysis like my dad was. So he's doing better now. And we've made amends because we have a beautiful child. I want the best for him. So when his dad passes away, I know that the affairs in order because grandma's already passed away. So we've talked about it. They have their affairs in order, or he does. And I'm grateful for that. My son will be cared for. So for myself, I talked about different things. Who's going to get what and why, and whatever I decide is what happens. Now, make sure in your will there's nobody that's able to get a power of attorney on you because they tell you, per the courts, you're somehow mentally unstable, right? They'll use that to their benefit to steal from you. And when you find this out, it's too late. So everybody decide what you want with your stuff. And if you have blended families, by all means, it's yours to hand down to your children and your family, and it's your legacy. If you want to be a part of something new, create something new, make sure it's crystal clear. Crystal clear. Tom Cruise said that, crystal clear. I love that. Make sure it is. And I mean very specific. There's loopholes to everything I found out. Justice system, legalities to everything. And your medical records have been altered by people who maybe abuse their power. So what do I have to say to that? It's magical what you learn in life. Have your affairs in order. Make sure you're on the up and up. And you shouldn't have to keep rereading the fine print and make sure nobody alters documents or closes businesses accounts or opens them in your name or your dad's that's maybe deceased or anybody else's. They use their social security number, go into social security pretending to be sending some cloning, somebody who maybe themselves to look like you as your name and everything else knows a lot about you. So they can capitalize on your pain. So these are things to bring awareness. What do I say to all of this is karma does play out, whether we ever see it or not, on the 3D here on Earth. It leaves a mess for the rest of us. I know it's been exhausting for 3 years trying to keep ahead of all this probate stuff, and my attorney, who was very small town, 35 years, hasn't seen this kind of shit show. But I guess when you have people in your world trying to capitalize on your small town mentality, Just because we're quiet, it doesn't mean we're stupid, as they called you, right? Maybe we are informed because of all this. So I'm trying to help everybody else get your affairs in order, big or small. If you have something at work that you can establish where you want your money to go and people to be notified in case something happens to you, do that. And if that's been compromised, maybe you need to have an attorney look at it so they're the ones notified to notify your family, which would be probably a good idea. People unfortunately can be bought and paid for, especially if they're in a compromised position. Maybe they have some hardships in life. Maybe best friends have been compromised by people that have persuaded them. It is unfortunate, and it's not their fault if they didn't know better. I didn't know a lot of these things. And when you didn't know what happened, it's harder to realize that things are happening to you. But when you know and they still happen, it's unfortunate. So make sure you care for the ones you love for in the right way, simple, and do what's right. Even down to the funeral arrangements. I know a dear friend of mine has her whole life all planned out. She's not only organized, but she became hyper controlling because she also had a narc in her life who she has children with. So I told her to be very specific. And when I told her some of the things that were happening to me, she revised things in a way that they can't be altered. And that's a beautiful thing. Education is important to know why, down to how you want your obituary written or maybe the flowers. If you don't care, then it's up to your children who are mortified. Mine are. So I'll be specific, I guess, so they don't have to worry about it. And where you want to be buried. Do you want to be cremated or buried? It matters to you. So your children or whomever has to decide these things doesn't have that experience along with grieving you and leave your legacy to whomever you decide, no matter what. And those of you joining forces, and my dad's been married 3 times, he had a simple will, which should have been executed, but we didn't because we were new to grieving, and his wife, my stepmother, got killed and then passed away. So in hindsight, we should have. There's no good time to go through it, but it is imperative to do it immediately. I mean, obviously, wait for the funeral to happen, but usually the next week. And then that's important to go through things, even though it's difficult. Otherwise, it leaves a mess. And it's messy, especially when too many people have their hands in things that belong to you. So it's not about the items, right? It's about memory and legacy and what you're supposed to keep in the family. And that matters. If I had something of theirs, I would definitely give it back. I would drive it up there myself. Those things that matter to the people that have the history with it. And if it doesn't matter, maybe there's a box of things you have, you found something that's not yours, give it back. That matters to somebody in their family. So do what's right. Try not to do probate. Sorry, attorneys that are probate attorneys, I couldn't do it. You can't pay me enough to do that job. I would be happy to help people along the way while they're planning their funeral so it can be the beautiful celebration of life instead of grieving somebody and living in grief for years. That would be something I would enjoy. And I've done it with other work I've done with the actual probate, people fighting over things because they're greedy while watching somebody else in pain because you have their things. That was meant for you. Your whole life, things that are coming to you and your grandparents, the pictures. So they destroy them, especially when they collaborate with your estranged people. They're evil, right? Causing pain and watching you suffer. That's just not okay. So I hope today that you maybe plan something for your future, your children, and whatever matters. And if it doesn't matter, still be specific to something that matters to your children, right? Or somebody in your life, your wife or whoever. Maybe leave it to, a specific charity. I've allocated different things to battered women's shelters and make sure we keep arts and crafts in the schools, music. It's important for life skills. So I hope this helps today. And just remember to take care of you because you matter. And so it is. Namaste.